us milk this cow the best way we know how. Park Hill Projects, Chickapow. One coacher, return of the track slasher. Double doser, Capadonna broadcaster. Striving for perfection. The only way I got my life back was through investing. Devotion, moving my soul toward the skit. Vocabulary coming out my ass like shit.
Milk the Cow, podcast number 6, returned after a 2-week hiatus. I was right in the moment of zen, but then it all went wrong when Mickey C decided to get up and everything went tit-shaped, basically. And suddenly he scotted back into his kind of Dalsim from Street Fighter 2 like sort of zen position whilst absolutely knocking the microphone. So if you did hear any of that clatter before, that was Mickey C.
Yoga Flame.
Yoga Flame.
Real mucus.
Anyway, welcome one and all, lads. Everything all right with you? Yes?
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
Okay, we've got an action-packed show tonight. We've got interviews, which we haven't quite worked out who they're actually going to entail. But yes, we do have an interview with some important people, which will be relayed to you throughout the course of the night. But without further ado, Mickey C, what you been up to?
Before you go in, I do have a request. Like via the Facebook page. Facebook's own Lauren White. Hello, Lauren. Wants to know, did you make your pheasant pie?
Well, no.
The dog's ate it.
I actually managed to give myself food poisoning twice last week anyway, so I thought I'd skip the pheasant pie.
Via pheasant?
No. One was a dodgy bacon sandwich.
Not a bab.
No. It was, and the other one was a
Bacon coma.
suspected dodgy chocolate mousse.
What? I suspected.
The bacon was a bit grey looking, and I should have known better.
You should have known better.
I really should have, but I've got this waste not want not attitude towards food.
Once you've bought a whoopsie, no matter how many days after a whoopsie, you're eating your whoopsies.
Totally. I live in a whoopsie paradise.
He buys food from farm shops
Whoopsie.
and has this whoopsie section.
So it's like living on the edge, really. It really is. And I managed to fall off twice, so the pheasant pie didn't happen.
No pheasant pie.
So,
pheasant pie.
but what have you been up to anyway?
Literally, nothing
that was it.
really. Like nothing.
That was the highlight of your week.
Well, I haven't really done anything other than last night. I watched something quite mental on the TV.
All right.
It's been on before, I think, but I missed it the first time. Did any of you catch it? It was Secret Lives of the Living Dolls.
I didn't know that.
Toddy posted it on Facebook last night, just saying, "Oh, watch this," but I didn't watch it. No, I was busy. Like,
fucking hell, it's mental. Like it was. It's these blokes who basically dress up in full rubber latex, like they look like dolls, you know. Like there was a one old bloke on who was he was like Californian and he was about 70 odd. And he'd spent like a couple of grand on this doll suit. And he's like looking in the mirror and that and going,
by doll, what do you mean? Like a full gimp?
Like a full like
thing.
Latex suit. I mean, this
set the scene. Tell her about the living doll.
Well, it's like it's a bit of obviously a fetish thing.
Was Cliff Richard involved?
Is it like, you know?
Not openly. I'm sure he was in the background somewhere.
I think there's a couple of super injunctions wrapped around the super injunction on that one. Allegedly.
Yeah, so there was this 70-year-old gadget, and he sort of did it in secret, you know. He lived with his daughter, who was like quite rich, and he had like the top floor of his house, and he just he only wore the suit up there. But then there's like an online community where they all like video chat with each other, all suited up.
So his daughter was involved, and she got dressed as a doll.
No, his daughter didn't know.
All right, I thought you were saying like it was almost like a doll inside a doll. He was like a kind of
Russian doll.
Russian doll.
A Russian gimp.
His daughter climbed inside him and was a gimp too.
Fucking hell!
The sick mind of Donald Jenkins.
Donald Jenkins.
No, it wasn't that bad. But he was sort of.
A Russian gimp.
Yeah. he had
an oligarch Russian gimp.
A gimp wrapped inside an enigma wrapped inside a puzzle.
he was doing it secretly, but like speaking to people online, all sort of suited
That's
up.
That's pure
and
dark web shit. This like,
and then, actually, it wasn't as dark as it sort of initially sounds. It was weird. But then, like, if his daughter went out, he'd be like out round the pool and that, taking photos of himself. And he was saying like if I was online dating, I would only get like 50-year-old women and that, and they sort of look all right for their age, but they don't look as good as like this, you know. And he just looked like Michael Myers in drag, you know, just like full rubber face and everything. It didn't look real. Like they don't look like at all real. They look like dolls, you know.
I still have not seen it. All I'm picturing is, you know, when they blow up like the fucking gimp costumes and it's all like the fucking industrial rubber and that, you know, like proper like gimboid costumes. Now you're kind of like, like Michael Myers and all this.
It's kind of reminding me more of a program I saw a while ago about, you know, like high spec blow up dolls. You know, people who like have sex with like blow up dolls, but they're like, you know, they pay like top dollar for them because they're supposed to be really give that extra real feel, like a glove.
These probably don't look as realistic as them. But there's this family-run company somewhere in America who makes them.
Like a right old mom and pop business.
It probably was. Like the dad who sort of founded the company, he died, and then the rest of the family like, oh, I've got to keep it going, you know. And they're in touch with all these like fucking obviously
real American heroes.
Obviously in touch with all these like weird blokes who are into it. But then they have this like rubber doll the rubber doll rendezvous, it's called. They all meet up in this hotel like once a year. It was riveting. Like, it really was. It was weird,
to be honest, like at first I was skeptical, but you're drawing it in. Keep talking.
But some of them had like proper families, and the families all knew about it. Like a couple of the blokes like who used to go out together like for walks in the park and that, like all dolled up. Like they had like kids, like a few kids and wives, and like the way they all sort of like let them away with it, you know.
Yeah, it's just what Cletus likes to do.
But the funniest one was like there was a bloke in England who was doing it, you know, and like his doll was fucking shit compared. The Americans were
good old
had,
Blighty,
like, nipples and like they were mint, the American ones, you know. I mean, I say mint, you know, like.
But they were high spec, high tech.
High spec. Whereas this like the English dude basically
he's gone for the razzle range.
Peach stocking, full length peach stocking over his whole body, and he introduced
bought off the back page of Razzle.
Do you know what it is? I just forgot. Like, obviously, we're doing like what you've been up to and all that. Now it's like starting to think, hi Mickey, so like your peach stocking and that. And then I realised you've been watching the telly, haven't you?
I've been watching TV.
So
I hadn't finished.
Oh, sorry.
But anyway, this sorry, I'll not go on too long, even though I already have. But it was really riveting. You should watch it. But
then how could I watch that?
Probably on
4OD catch up.
Remind me of the platforms that such a program is available.
Well, terrestrial television has been running in this country for. So it's I can't remember which channel. I think it was 4. Like, but anyway, the English Gadgie, he'd done it secretly. His girlfriend knew about it, and a couple of his online friends.
Right.
But then he sort of dolled up and met 2 of his friends who he'd known for like a long time, who sort of knew, but they'd never seen him in it, you know.
Can I just say, everybody, spoiler alert, huge amounts of spoiler alert.
Well, it's not really, because it's still fucking, it's not spoiler, because it's just like funny to just
that's the one.
Their sort of reaction.
Somebody do us a favour, because Mickey can't remember how to tie his shoelaces. Generally, post it on the Facebook page, because I don't want to go through all this, Kate. Well, you know, just post it on there.
I don't want to hear anymore.
What was the program? What was the program called again?
Secret Lives of the Living Dolls.
Available on 4OD.
Is it really?
I believe so.
Brilliant.
Mike, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, it's something I would like to raise. The last week, the Sage Francis gig, who knew that was going to turn out the way it did? We're used to ploughing away with the old underground canoe, and you know, sometimes it hits the shore and that. But what a fantastic! And I'm not even asked it was us. I'm just happy that really niche underground hip hop artist found an audience in what has traditionally been the cultural armpit of England.
That's what footballers, strikers say when they score a goal. They're like,
what?
I'm not bothered that I scored a goal. It was like, it's for the team, you know.
Hooray!
But yeah, it was really promising.
Back of the net. Sorry, Don, you were saying?
I was just saying, yeah, it was really promising, and hopefully
John Dahl promising.
Hopefully it'll lead on to other things and other gigs.
Well, we have explored other avenues for potential other people. But watch this space. We'll come back to you when their agents do.
If it's all right, I'd like to tell you about a few things that I've been up to. One actually dates back to a couple of weeks ago, but obviously we had a holiday, but away from the Cow podcast. But it was basically doing a bit of cooking one night. And I was sort of like looking at my phone whilst I was waiting for the pan to kind of heat up, and started looking at Facebook, and then drawn into one of those Facebook things that you probably shouldn't really look at because it's just it's just inane as fuck. And the article was how do I make my vagina smell nice?
Is that why you're doing that thing with your fingers?
And yeah.
I really want to smell your fingers. Really want to smell those fingers.
The whole time he was talking, he was like rubbing his finger and forefinger together.
Shoulder taxi.
What's this about?
So anyway, I was looking at it, and it was like an article, and obviously the further you look in the article, it was obviously written by a bloke, but it was kind of phrased as a kind of sort of woman's, like how to kind of be more conscientious about your body odor and things like that. But it was basically advocating that women should get a tampon and dip it in yogurt and stick it up there, and the general sort of yeast was kind of a good
Crunch
sort
corner.
of antibacterial thing. And that like women should change the knickers probably about twice a day.
Is this a gadget?
And well, it was written, it was written as if it was, you could imagine it being in like a kind of women's feature magazine,
right.
But it was like the way that it was written, it was obviously a bloke. And yeah, you need to completely shave that completely, because hair makes the smell of urine and fishiness smell sort of stay behind. And it was, anyway, whilst I was reading all of this kind of dark and like article, which I shouldn't have really been, and I was thinking it was all focused on kind of odour. Suddenly I started smelling a strong odour in my house and realised that I had forgotten about the pan that was cooking or whatever at the same time, which was starting to go toxic, and then suddenly a fire broke out. I had a fire on, loads of noxious smoke, had to put a fire out, had to chuck the pan out the door after it had done it, totally stunk out the house, whatever. And what I felt was that was just a prize example of karma, whereas like the whole of womankind saw me reading such this horrifically sexist article, and like the wrath of women just came scorning back down on us for reading such fucking twaddle, basically.
I'm saying nothing. I've been accused of bald kings this week in that realm. I will come to that.
The second one was just the thing I've been up to was driving along was just quintessential great Geordie banter, and that was Lee Polar Blair. I hope you're listening in. This was his dad.
What a lovely lad.
His dad, who helped pick up Sage Francis from the airport, and he says, "Oh yeah, like this is one of your heroes, like, isn't he?" He says, "Is he a hero?" And I goes, "Aye." She goes, "He's no fucking John Wayne, like, is he?" Anyway, just putting them. Totally loved it. And and the very final was just like earlier on today, just having had a crap bit of time off work and just return to work. That horrible feeling when you go back to work, you really don't want to be there, but then something really great happens.
Day.
And
every day.
And I really
last night before you went last night, did you have that wet hair I'm watching Last of the Summer Wine feeling at the end of the 6 weeks holidays?
I did. And that like feeling that I knew that I had
night.
the feeling that I knew that I hadn't done my summer homework,
You'd
kind of
forgot how to write.
But anyway, I went to work, and I work without going into much because I don't want to sort of break any confidentiality, but we're working in a particularly rough estate in an area where people don't tend to do this. And basically what we did was we took a load of music and a sound system into an estate in Newcastle, where lots of people go, "Oh, don't go in there, it's well dodgy and whatever, nothing pleasant to say about the people who live there." And basically we put on a load of music and a load of like kind of sort of like happy hardcore Nuke Monkey McKenna music, and it went down an absolute storm. And rather than just being the usual gadgets, loads of lads with their heads down on the microphone, you had like young women who were like, not young women, but women about in their kind of late 20s, early 30s, who used to go to rock shots apparently on a Friday night. They were jumping around and bouncing around, and then you had little kids of like 5-year-old just jumping out and raving and stuff to that. And I says, honestly, it was just a nice thing to behold, and just a part of kind of Geordie heritage is the fact that like kind of this music lives on and is passed from like
really
one generation to the next. So anyway, moving swiftly on. Okay, I want to know what's going on.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Hi.
What's going on?
Oh God!
This is our roundup of what's been happening. This is our weekly roundup of what's happening in the northeast of Newcastle and beyond.
It is beyond this time, where reach has spread. I'll take you on a journey. We're going to Glasgow first.
Okay, please tell me what's happening in Glasgow.
Our good friend Mark My Words of the Gyro Babies is throwing a boat party on Loch Lomond on the 1st of November. It's the Loch Lomond Ghost Ship Boat Party.
Wow.
It's £15 at the Maid of the Loch in Balloch, a beautiful place. I used to train up there on my bike. Wonderful. It's live and underground, presents 2 rooms of live bands, techno and hip-hop. Tickets can be gotten via Tickets Scotland's website. Host of artists include Root System, Loki, very good, Yoko Pono, Crash Club Gasp, Nicky Flame, Rob Riot, Technogram and Jackal Trades. Also, I'll take is another night they're putting on. They're almost as busy as Lively Up. You wanted to say something?
I just want to say, I really want to go to them. I know it's probably not that particular crew, but I understand that there's been a number of these kind of Loch Lomond boat parties. Having just recently been up there as well, I really want to go about it. I'm always gutted I hear about it quite last moment, so really want to get it checked out. They have something called Midgie Fest as well, which happens in around sort of July time as well. So check that out as well if you're interested in boat parties.
Yes, I think it is them, by the way. They put quite a few on.
Great.
So Mark as well, they're putting the Mouse Outfit on the 29th of November. That's obviously Dr. Syntax and Sparks and a full live band.
Awesome live hip-hop.
Absolutely brilliant. 29th of November at the African Caribbean Centre. Support from Loki in the Cartel, Bagel, Steg G, Gasp and Physics. Tickets £6 on your Ticket Scotland. Don?
I was going to tell you about Detox, which is a long-standing night. I think we've been running for 13 years. It's happening on Halloween Eve. Some kind of masquerade ball, I think, with a sort of Breaking Bad / horror theme, fancy dress. Tickets are about £13 and can be bought in Beatdown RPM or can be bought over line on the Detox page. Basically, it's an old school hard dance night with hard dance acts like Hard House, Tidy Boys, etc. going on downstairs, and then upstairs enjoy headline along with a host of local artists.
Bass Generator.
I'll be playing there as well, so please come and check it out.
The most famous DJ ever to come out of Newcastle.
Paul McAlinden.
That's right, Paul McAlinden.
A.K.A. Maccas. Big
What's
respect
his
to man.
DJ name, like?
Paul
McAlinden, yeah. Who actually,
Paul McAlinden.
under coaching of none other than Mike Cow, we both started DJing at the same time.
Coach, I was the genesis.
Yes, I did notice that was one of in the recent top 5 most influential DJs. I did adopt a cap to yourself, Mike.
You did,
rather than go for big name DJs.
You did. I did appreciate that, but in a massive form of self-sabotage, I fucked it off years ago. I like to self-sabotage, don't I, Michael?
Okay.
Yes.
Now stop giving you a reach around. You can swiftly move on and tell us the next item, please.
The next item we have. This was something that I thought he was trolling, but I'm going to read it anyway. James Clark. It is a night of punk donk. Which I thought he's made this up. If you have, I'll hunt you down and kill you. Northumberland Arms, Friday the 24th of October, £4 with Villa Fungus, Stabbing Device, Prolafeed, Yudlagar, 40 ounce, Lama Migiga. It's Punk Donk. That's Punk Donk.
He's moved on from Go Grind Donk. That was the guy who's just literally been at my front door just moments ago, picking up posters.
I'm going to be hunting the man down too much. It's a real night.
Yeah, that's a real night.
You're good, brother. Another thing as well, slightly different from music and all of that, the venerable Dominic Crawley, one of our good friend Slaz's mates. Unfortunately, his dad has got cancer recently, and Dominic, absolutely mint, is shaving his head in support of his dad, which I'm sure everybody's going to get behind. We're going to get behind on the podcast and on the Facebook page. I'll be sharing his Just Giving link. He's fundraising for cancer research, and obviously I'm going to post the link for that, so look out for that. Big up to Dominic Crawley, and blessings to all your family.
Big up. Audio Asylum, night been running for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Years now, running from World Headquarters. Really excited about an event that's happening there this Saturday. They've basically got a really big lineup with artist Mumdance. For those that you don't know, in my opinion, the most interesting, innovating electronic artist around at this time. No, not to be confused with Mumra, who kind of mishmashes grime, bits of breakbeat, old school rave music, and even a little bit of hardcore, all into ever, but with really kind of future edge and sort of glitchy and alternative production.
Don's
along with Pinch
stroking himself with an inside inside out sheepskin mittens.
That's how excited I am
About Mumdance.
Mumdance. He's also played up with like Tectonic, Pinch, who they both did like Pinch, famous dubstep artist, but the two of them did like
Well, he went on
album.
He went on. It was more like a techie thing. He started playing Berghain and all of that caper.
Yeah, and he's very, very alternative. That Grime MC novelist who appeared on like Mumdance last EP and also Dead Boy. So it's a real kind of chunky lineup.
Ooh,
there
brap.
are some. If you go and find out check on the their web
Sounds
on their
right.
Facebook page.
Brap of a night, that.
There is ways of getting free tickets. So register with them, and you might be
It's
eligible
the
for
Blue
free places.
Cigarettes website. If you register on there, I believe there may still be tickets. I don't know. There was people posting today. They're like, get in, I've got me tickets and all of that. So bluecigs.com, something like that, BLU. I'll post it though. You know how we roll.
Sunday, happening at the Star in Shadow Cinema,
And
is
one of, for me, absolutely fantastic and something that I personally will be attending. It is John Barker of the Angry Brigade, who did his 10 stretch for a variety of guerrilla activities in the early 70s. Who, strangely enough, what will we be doing, gentlemen? We will be interviewing John on the Milk the Cow podcast.
Yes.
We will indeed. So stay tuned for that. I'm personally looking forward to that because I've got a lot of questions I want to ask him personally, but there's a lot of great questions that like the people who engage with the page have put in as well. So we'll be asking him, and we will actually be interviewing him later on, and we'll be putting that out on an episode coming soon.
and Screen Age Kicks, which kind of like segues we're into.
It is. Should we do the competition?
Why not do it now?
Why
Yeah.
ever not? Right, my little creptiles. Oh, that cunt's got out now. Fucking Mr. Oi. Do you hear it? Aye. God, that, I mean, can I have an addendum to what's getting on your tit when we're done? Just this Mr. Oi.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll come back.
We
to
will
him.
come back to that. Screen Age Kicks, though, my little creptillions.
What's creptillions?
Well, that's his fucking catchphrase, this Mr. Oi, isn't it?
Sweet, yeah,
All right, my
fuck.
little creptile, shine bright like your mother's favourite fucking crack pipe now, lad. Oi, and dance around like a fucking dick. You're not seeing it?
I've seen it,
Yeah, well, why are we asking then?
I'm just wondering why you're seeing
Just
it.
eating into valuable podcast
I thought
time.
it was like something that I've missed out. Like I don't seem to be aware of anything that goes on nowadays.
All right, you got the
I
jail.
thought creptiles was something.
No, this
People
is just
saying
him.
it, just him.
This is just him.
Ah,
but it's
right,
like,
okay.
you know, that's the
Something
goof,
to do
you
with
know what I mean?
pancakes.
That's the goof. You say, little creptiles, it's a reference to that cunt, you know.
Right.
Can I move on now?
You can, yes,
Yeah.
please
Thanks
do.
very much. Thanks for stepping in there, Don. Screenage Kicks, one of our, I think, an absolute great addition to the local cultural life. It's going to be on Halloween at the Time Theatre. They just get bigger and bigger. Absolutely sort of fantastic stuff. And kindly they've offered 2 tickets to be given away on the podcast. To be involved, what you need to do, you need to have liked and shared both the Screenage Kicks and the Milk Cow podcast Facebook pages. I have posted links to all of that already twice. You then need to inbox the answers to these questions. Questions. Africa is fucked. Shoot him in the lung. I will refrain from, and I'm not going to do South African accent. Anyway, so you need to inbox the Milk the Cow podcast page with answers to these questions. Are you listening closely? I shall begin.
Get a hit.
They are, just to give you a bit of flavour of the background, going to be doing for Halloween one of my favourite films, Lost Boys.
You're eating maggots, Michael.
It's honestly nobody could ever quote that right. It's not even the worms you're eating, Michael. That's the version I use. It's something else.
What is it then?
I honestly don't know. That's what I'm saying.
We'll have to go and find it.
Somebody checked us on it because I said it the other week.
We'll go and find it.
Well, it's not one of the questions. May I continue?
No, they're showing it. We'll watch it. That's what I'm saying.
Of course. That's what we'll do.
Advertising, I was
So
trying
anyway,
to
Lost
get
Boys
people
is
in.
Lost Boys. One of them, double bill though. The other one's Beetlejuice, which I'm not that bothered about. It was
Beetlejuice is good. Like,
well, you like Beetlejuice. I'm just like, it's a bit like, well, for me, you know what I mean? But anyway, enjoy yourselves. So, question 1. In what town does the film The Lost Boys take place?
I know.
Well, hush thy mouth, sir. Right, if everybody heard that, what
little sister.
I'm trying to do a competition, man. Let's have like a
Thou shalt not kill.
Run to your brother.
I still believe.
Have you heard the amazing remix by that group, the Raj Packets of that?
What?
I've said, have you heard the amazing remix of that particular track by a local group, the Raj Packets?
No.
That I am in no way connected to whatsoever. But
He's not in it with his pedo core.
I'll make sure that it does get played on a future podcast.
I'll be well into that.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway,
what's your
moving on.
favourite song off the Lost Boys soundtrack?
I still believe. I still believe.
I think
sax man.
Gotta be that, hasn't it?
Stocky Sax Man.
Aye.
Basically, the remixed version is just basically like that in a loop. Basically, the sax man flexing his muscles.
Fantastic
actually-
though, what a film, what a great time, because that was us being like, we're just starting to hit puberty when all that come out. It was just the shit when it come out on it.
That's actually
our
Bob
time,
Dylan's,
motherfucker. That's our time.
No, that's the Goonies.
Anyway, I'll repeat this question before these fucking
Mine's lost
reprobates
in-
got
no,
involved
doesn't matter.
all up in the competition. So, first question once again. In what town does the film The Lost Boys take place? I still believe. Question 2, relating to Beetlejuice. That's Beetlejuice. What character does Gina Davis play in Beetlejuice?
She plays the wifey.
Oh, honestly, just on it. Sometimes I love you, but sometimes I've got no but the hate for you. So that's the competition. Feel free to rewind it back. We got a bit sidetracked because we still believe.
Moving swiftly on, I believe that it's time for an old school gem.
That was a segue right up there with David Kidd Jensen. May I just say, I still believe it's time for a
old school gem.
Welcome back, Milk the Cow podcast. I was listening to that, getting a little bit teary-eyed, really, because Mark Bell. Some of you may know one of the members of LFO, and obviously one of the big people in Warp Records as well. For me personally, when I was a young kid, I had a lot of the LFO stuff on vinyl. Still got it, and when he died, I mean, you know what me, I'm always going on about like, TV's old Uncle Phil died and all that, and it was like, you know what I mean? Why are you getting so upset and all that? Bit of a hypocrite, but like really slapped us around the head. One of my personal heroes, and he was before I even knew his name, and that was what it was like back in the day before. Well, I didn't know anybody that in the house at the time. If you're a scientist, I don't know. But I had this piece of vinyl, 12 inches, and I used to just play it and play it and play it and play it. And that was one of the tunes. I mean, obviously, you could name any, like LFO, We Are Back. So many other LFO tracks.
Freak, even later on in the career.
This is going to make you freak. Massive tune. And just so distinctive. And it was part of that whole sort of Sheffield sort of bleep warehouse sound. And it's just a really emotional thing that the guy died, and such a miss. And I tell you what it is, tell you what's mad. Like obviously we're booking for the second artist for the Christmas Cow at the minute. I was honestly thinking, should we just push the boat out and should we just get LFO that morning? And I found out in the afternoon, and that was part of why I was completely knocked for 6. So I obviously we returned this week, and it's the first podcast since it happened. I didn't think we just couldn't overlook it. I mean, like obviously, shouts out to anybody who knew Mark Bell.
One of those kind of few electronic acts from the kind of early 90s that are just like sort of got quite a broad appeal, that are very, quintessentially British, you know what I mean? Like, think about it, like, you've obviously got The Prodigy, you've got 4 Hero, you've got Orbital, you've got The Orb, you've got Left Field.
Nigel
and
Havers.
Yeah, of course, Nigel Havers.
It sounds the DJ Nigel Havers.
and then LFO, just like really, really important in the development of like electronic music.
I think that's the word, important. I mean, like tonight I've got a t-shirt on, and it's like, you've never seen it, but it's like a limited edition t-shirt. I am literally lifting my jumper up because it's fucking freezing in here, like a Premier League footballer. But it's the history of British electronic music and dance music, and it goes all the way back to like Northern Soul. It's like an artist put it together, like you can't really get them. I've got one, it's one of only 100. But seriously, like in the last sort of like year or two, it's like the t-shirt's cursed, dropping like flies, mate, and Mark Bell's on there, obviously with the whole Sheffield sound and all that. It's like a kind of spidergram of all the the big hitters, and he's on there, man. Watch out, everybody else who's on there. Yeah. the Grim Reaper be coming.
The death list. What's it called?
No, it's like, honestly, if you can get them in the death sweep, you're laughing. Just have a look at me t-shirt if you ever see us, you know.
Which moves us on. We've obviously got the lovely section of the show, Old School Jam, where we romanticise about a golden era of electronic music and part of our youth. But the 90s weren't all that great, were there? There were some rather shit moments as well. And for that, I'd like to add a new section called Old School Schem. Basically, we want to find out, tracks from the 90s and slash late 80s.
The magic of the 90s.
And remember those songs that we best forget about, but no, you won't forget about them because we're here to rekindle their shitness. And without further ado, this is Cicero and Love Is Everywhere.
Last time. Right, pass the razor blades. You haven't even played a fucking note.
Stop swearing.
Oh, God.
Bring in the handbag. Bring out the bagpipes.
Yeah, we'll fucking go. Oh, God. I remember this, and this literally was right at the fucking end as well.
Let me hear this. I can't remember it.
What's going on then?
I can't remember this at all. Is this not like a fucking Visit Scotland fucking theme tune? Visit Scotland.
Was it just passion or a laugh to you? Cause I wouldn't do the things you wanted me to. Us breaking up was a hard thing to say. But inside you, there's still love. Did you pray? You make me feel jealous. You make me so mad. But now that it's over, I'm feeling so glad. Senses found me
Underworld.
for once in my life. And now pain is faded. All I see is the lights. She was using me, but I didn't care. Don't you leave me now. Just don't you dare.
Yeah, this is quite enough of that.
Honestly, man. What the fucking hell is that? I remember this now from back in the day. I didn't even fucking listen to it because you were like fucking trolling the shit out of us, slapping links left, right, and centre. I was like, I'm not opening it, fuck you. I'm not opening it. And I didn't know they were going to fucking play it, you cunts.
A little bit of a history about Cicero. Basically, like electronic artist, was actually co-produced by the Pet Shop Boys. The actual track was co-produced by them as well. Only ever released 3 tunes. I was wondering whether I actually downloaded this for 59 pence off Amazon, whether or not, when was the last person who ever actually put a copy of this tune. But basically his greatest hit out of his 3 tunes that he released, I think I got to number 25 in the charts in the top 40, and it was kind of there was a variety of Scottish artists, like was it Mary Kearney as well,
She was
of artists who were kind of like looking for kind of popdom, but like used a bit of kind of sort of commercial kind of Belgian rave sounds in the back of their songs to kind of give them greatness. But yeah, that was terrible. He went later on to be signed by Club Scene, the same label that put out Ultrasonic and things like that, and QFX.
What's schem mean, by the way?
Schem, it's like
scum shit.
It's just something that you find on the side of your bell end, basically.
I think it's derived from like the Northwesters, the place Skelmersdale. They call it Schem, but it's notoriously like a sort of bit of a shithole.
Right.
Anyway,
so sorry to all the Schem crew.
Next time, Mickey, maybe you can delve deep into the dark recess of the night and bring out some Schem.
Does it have to be 90s Schem, or can it be?
It's got to be 90s / late 80s. It's definitely got to be on a kind of vaguely electronica kind of sort of
so
table.
I've got a pearl out to play, which I might just have it as my song.
There's one which definitely connects all 3. Well, I'm hoping it might be that song, but we'll leave that for another day. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to go and say, what's getting on your tits?
Dun, dun, dun. Do you want me to go?
Mike, what's getting on your tits?
I don't know how long is this going to fucking take. Well, what's getting on my tits mainly is, I don't know, just like sort of people like making assumptions about a person based on what their preconceived notions or prejudices are, which you would expect from like sort of unthinking right-wing people, or far right-wing people, if you're a bit right-wing, yeah, whatever. However, I've been twice this week, I've been at the arse end of that with supposed like left-wing people. And this is exactly why I stay out of all of this fucking stupid, like, left-right fucking dance of bullshit, you know what I mean? I mean, have we not moved on yet, you know what I mean?
Oh, and what happened?
What happened? Well, I mean, both of it involves Facebook as well. I mean, I'll tell you about the one tonight, actually. There was, I actually, like, added this bloke, right, because I thought it was Tommy Sheridan, the Scottish socialist gadgie.
Right,
I thought it was him, but actually it wasn't him. It was somebody else called Thomas Sheridan, and he's, like, an Irish guy and that. But he's such a fucking wanker, like, you know what I mean? Shouts to Thomas Sheridan, Harry bruv.
Big up.
Big up, big up. It's a stick up, and I'm about to slap you around. Your nip up. But Thomas Sheridan, what a tool. So like all week he's been like sort of properly going in on like people like from a really egotistical place. I mean, obviously there's some people who might think I'll do that as well, but
Might be the odd person who might think that.
just the odd one. But my heart's in the right place. Whereas this guy's such a cunt.
Why was he saying that?
Well, he was like the one in particular, and I couldn't resist having a little fucking like sort of humorous pop, you know. He was good. Like, I can't do it verbatim, but I'll paraphrase where he was like, "Oh, conspiracy theorists, they're just like addicts, you know, like ex-conspiracy theorists. You know, people have moved away from it. They can't help themselves, but like go from like all the way down this whole lizards reptilian thing to complete the other side, like total rationalists and all of that. Oh God, conspiracy theorists, ex-conspiracy theorists." So like, I then saw this and I couldn't help myself but to set the scene, he's just literally just released a podcast that he's done called 10 Years of Narcissistic Individuality or something with this guy called Ian R. Crane, right? Just to give you...
I like Ian R. Crane.
You may do, but I don't care whether you like him or not. That's not part of the story.
Right, okay.
What the reason being, Ian R. Crane is one of the ultimate conspiracy theorists going. He's the bloke who was like putting all of this fear propaganda out. It was adamant that there was going to be a false flag at the Olympics, like a sort of staged alien spacecraft with some like black ops like
Not
sort
just
of
a
craft
bomb
and all
or
that.
something, like.
Well,
There's a lot of
he
stuff
changed
on it.
his tune quite a
There was
bit.
a lot of stuff
changed
on
his
it
tune
about
quite
that,
a
to be
bit.
fair to
So
him.
you know, obviously he's posted this stuff. So I merely like pointed out, says the man who's just done a podcast with Ian R. Crane. He went off it. He went off it. He was like, "What do you mean by that, proud mammy cow?" And all of this, like, you know, come on. He probably doesn't talk. He's Irish, I think, but for the purpose of this is how you talk, motherfucker. "What do you mean, proud mammy cow? How dare you say that?" Oh, you fucking cunt.
So
I
what
was
was
just
his
like,
stuff
so I just replied. I says, like, you know, you take yourself a bit seriously, mate, you know what I mean? And I've said many times before, people cannot laugh at themselves. I even put like the winky, smiley thing at the end because I didn't mean shit by it, you know what I mean? And he then went on, goes like, got his little fucking acolytes around. He was like, "Oh, guys, yeah, now we know who to put on our block list, yeah?" And then I was just like, "What?" I went, "How, mate, are you for real?" So I was thought out of it, and then like went and had me tea. Come back half an hour later, "I'm erased from the Thomas Sheridan internet." I'm like, out of there, I'm gone. And like I was literally just having a bit of a laugh with him, and I was like, "Oh, you know, how?" And I was just thinking, what exactly goes through this guy's head? He was completely and utterly, totally, self-consciously serious about this post that he put about, like, you know, it wasn't like, you know, it didn't have like I'm tipping my straw butter hat to the left, you know, I'm having a bit of a laugh on it, a glint in his eye. There's none of it. And I just thought, is this what this whole sort of thing's all about?
He's like one of them people who it's like where it's like if they're on your Facebook, there's like a 50-50 thing with them. Like 50% of you is like, "Oh, I really want to read what this daft cunt's saying." Then the other 50%'s like, "Oh, fuck off."
Man's
you know?
morbid fascination with
It's
car
like-
crashes. There's one there, you didn't want to look at it, but the traffic slows down.
He's one of them.
Just to go back to the earlier point, because that's kind of something that I have been kind of following on your rants this week, Mike, is...
Right, I'll just stop you there. They're not rants, they're just sort of merely
I've followed
points put across forcefully.
I've followed a few.
But in particular, this whole kind of sort of idea is you go left wing, which was, I think, the kind of particular way that you were kind
I
of
call
put
it-
on.
I call it the far left, Don.
And I just, you know, I just think like I can't help but feel that sometimes like what we're talking about here are individuals who just happen to be tossers.
But how come I
rather-
persistently on the
ra-
far left continue to find the same tossers with a different face and a different body? but saying the same things.
I think you'll find that in
Not
all
same
sections of
Of
life.
course you will, because I was having it out with the far right as well online like this week. But to be fair, they didn't block us and shit. I'm not like, this is me co-signing the far right. Yes, fucking like Adolf. Yes, Mein Kampf. I'm not doing that either, but they haven't.
Yeah,
Do you know what
but
I mean?
I think-
All I'm saying is the only people who've blocked me this week, and it happens frequently, are people on the far left. And not only that, this other person then didn't give us the right to reply within apparently, like, on the left it's all supposed to be like,
They all speak like that.
but this motherfucker, you're speaking like Neil from the Young Ones. Guys, honestly, I don't think you should, like, anybody should listen to Michael Proud, Mammy Cow. Does anybody even know who he is? Does anybody even know who he is? Honestly, guys, like, I don't, and this word was honestly used now as buckled. He's like, anybody who's right on shouldn't associate with somebody who's like misogynist and then a little bit threatening. And I'm like, fucking even like sort of like some of the dudes on there that we'll have it out with, but like, like some of the people, well, like, you're not threatening. Do you know what I mean? You listen to people and all that. And I'm like, cheers to those people. To be fair though, I didn't need to hear it. I don't like need these cunts to like tell me what my self-worth is. But at the same time, I'm going to go in on you because, do you know why? Attack is the best form of defence. Biatch!
I don't know what you're going to say.
I just get this idea that there's no such thing and that we should forget about left and right. And I think if you want to think about forgetting left and right and stay somewhere in the middle, then you've got the policies of Tony Blair and centrism, which is what's gone on for the last fucking 15
What's
or 20
going
years
on?
With the third way. The reality is you can't deny the existence that there is a left and right. And there are obviously things that are disgusting in both camps, but there is also a lot of potential within the left camp because of the fact that it tends to be advocating for a better world rather than right, which tends to be advocating for kind of the rights of some over others, basically. And obviously there are exceptions to the rule in both of those camps, but I think by and large left-wing people, but really Stalin, if you want to talk about totalitarianism, that was fascism. That is as far right as you possibly can go. It might have been used as socialism as its origins because ultimately working people did stand up and fight for the rights of themselves, but unfortunately it was hijacked by fucking middle class theoreticians who kind of decided
you make a good
home.
point, and it's something that like long before all of this crap and all that, I used to be involved in like sort of organised politics, and it's like something, and probably to be honest, I probably like sort of project a bit like as a result of me like direct experiences back in the day. What gets on me tits is not the fact that people are all like sort of the working class and like they didn't grow up the way I did and blah blah blah. It's not that. As I say, I feel I've transcended all of that shit to a level. It's the fact that these particular people that I'm talking about, and yes, it is individuals and all of that, granted and all that, but I do sort of see this pattern persistently. They will sit there and go, oh, look at those chavs, and I had that as well, and like I talk the way I talk, but I've got a brain in my head, you know what I mean? I think Mickey said the other day, you didn't really fit the model, like, do you? Of what? Just of the sort of like
humanity,
the thinking man's bumperclot, you know what I mean? But like that's the thing, and like, they weren't very welcoming. They were judging me on face value. I was very rarely sort of given the time and space to like sort of have my opinion and speak. I felt it was just they were being hypocrites. They weren't being the thing that they profess to want to create in the world. And for me, walk your talk. Like, be the thing you profess to be, because you go so far around the bend, as Don quite rightly points out on the macro scale, you embody the microcosm of fascism. If you're going to censor somebody, if you're not going to give them the right to reply, no matter what you profess to call yourself, that is fascism. So stop it.
But I think, again, I want to just express that that's not a blanket coverage of lots of people having been involved in lots of struggles in different places around. And I think there are lots of examples of people who struggle against that or even belong to groups where just power exists and power structures that are just evident in everyday society, be in your job, in your place that you work. People suddenly like that little bit of power that they get, because maybe they get paid slightly more in a job, or somebody gives them a bit more favoritism over others in their day-to-day life. And unfortunately those power structures exist within groups, and it just so happens that group activity of trying to fight for change is when usually people collectivise, and unfortunately within that you end up dealing some of the worst elements of human folly basically come out whenever people kind of collectivise and come together.
Usually the people that don't. This is the full sort of sad thing of the situation, is that like the people who don't want to be in charge are the ones who should be in charge. Like but the people who obviously want to be in charge, they want to be in charge out of their own personal sort of ego type of thing, where you really want your leaders to be people who are like sort of like not into it, you've got to sort of push them into it.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Aye. Then just to cap it all off, I've used the whole sort of left-right thing and all of that, and I've used it to sort of, I don't want to sort of go into using too many large words and sort of get out of the sort of realms of sort of how we can all understand things. I think that's always important. You know what I mean? I really do think it's, as Don's pointed out, groups, power-based things, power struggles, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be work environment, could be whatever it is. The essence and the key to how we all work together is actually by listening, understanding and working together. And a really good way of doing that is to when you speak or when you're listening to people, don't listen to jump in, listen to listen. Listen and learn from the people that are in front of you. Even you might start feeling, you don't know what I'm fucking talking about and all that. Well, listen to yourself. What is that saying about you? Why are you feeling that you're better than them in some way? Self-analyze, like all the time, and look at yourself first, and just bring people along, encourage them. Like, give them the space to actually grow and educate themselves, and don't judge them and don't admonish them. If you do that, then we've got to actually have a chance to change things. If you don't really need to qualify that one, do I?
No. Good points there. Very quickly, what I was getting on my tits is just to listen to anybody out there. I had a great night, Sage Francis, the other night. Only spoiled by the fact that some bastard stole my coat. So if you are listening, or if you know somebody who now has a new green jacket that they didn't last week, then tell them to do the right thing and get in touch with Donald Jenkins, who is going to be very cold this winter as he can't afford to buy a new coat.
Has it got your name on the ticket at the back?
It does, aye. And actually, there's a bit of string running through it.
Can I just cut in on that as well? Can I just cut in on that? Like, seriously, when we're not rich people, do you know what I mean? Like, we have really had to dig into our fucking pockets to put these kind of fucking nights on. That after party where it was stolen was for medical aid for Palestinians. Do you know what I mean? So, essentially, you've stolen from a charity do, you cunt.
That coat had supplies in that would save kids.
Possibly.
It did have some supplies in it.
There were possibly many syringes in there. So, like, what I will say just on that, and this is just on the fucking real, if that kind of shit keeps happening, it has happened on and off over the years, then we're going to take our ball home, basically. I don't need this shit anymore.
We're going to go all Taliban on your asses.
Well, not really. We're just going to stop putting ice on. It's as simple as that.
I thought you meant you were going to tie people up and cut their hands off.
No, I just do that in my spare time. I didn't mean to say these cunts.
All right, then.
Which allows us to segue quite nicely into a song by said Sage Francis over those night of, and this is Make 'Em Purr. That was Sage Francis. The track was Make 'Em Purr, and I caught up with Sage Francis after his show when he played in Newcastle last week. This is an interview. Please check it out. Some really heartfelt messages in this.
So we're inside the nightclub. It's been a busy day running around. We've got Sage Francis, who's been travelling around Europe, just come in from Ireland today. For those of you who don't know, Sage Francis is kind of on the leading kind of alternative hip-hop artist who's been around for 15 years, probably longer than that. I'm sure he's going to pull me to account in a second. And he's just coming on the back of his Copper Gold album, which has just been released and is an amazing album. I've thoroughly loved it. And he's arrived in Newcastle, which is a kind of a golden moment for me as a big sort of long-term fanboy. Anyway, this is the Milk Cow podcast. We're going to try and throw around for a quick interview. So, first of all, have you enjoyed Newcastle so far, or has it just been one kind of blur? Am I going to just merge into the next person that you meet in the next city, and the city after that, and the city after that?
You may, but it's a dreamland so far, because we slept... what time? We arrived at... When did you pick us up? At 9?
It was about 8:45 this morning,
yeah. Okay, so and then we slept until 5 p.m. And then we were here, we did sound check, but the fact that this show sold out before doors open is pretty exceptional. Like, I love just getting that immediate love and support from a crowd, because I don't play here often, you know. Okay. So
well, the closest you've ever played up here in the Northeast is a town called Middlesbrough, which you played in sort of like I think it was about 2001, 2002. Okay, which is like the closest. Where they're called the Geordies in Newcastle. For those listeners will know the people from Middlesbrough are called the Smoggies because of the smog in the air and stuff like that. But there's kind of real diehard fans of yours who were fortunate enough to see you play down there. Do you actually remember this gig at all, or not?
No, in fact, I thought I played Newcastle before, but it must have been in Australia. There's a Newcastle in Australia that I played. Okay. So
the big difference is that the way that you pronounce it is correct. So you say Newcastle, which is, it's an ass, like the Americans say. But most of the Southerners who would ever refer to our city from this particular country would call it Newcastle. And they would put an arse rather than an ass in it. But
Newcastle.
So you've definitely got it right, and that's why Americans definitely able to pronounce Newcastle for what it is.
We have White Castle, so...
You have White Castle.
If you say White Castle, you get kicked out of the country.
So have you enjoyed the vibe? Has things been friendly since you got here?
Yeah, we got here. I got to meet with Scroobius Pip. He's going to hop up on stage with me. We'll be doing a couple songs, but we have a song together called Let 'Em Come, which was on his Distraction Pieces album, and we've never done that live before. I've never performed it live, so it's one of those things where when you throw a new thing like that into a set that you're fully comfortable with, and then you have that one brand new thing, like that's all I can think about. So once I perform that song in front of an audience, I think we'll be in a new...
And this is the variable. This is the thing that can go either way.
Yeah. So my anxiety levels are not high, but they're a little higher than normal, just because I really want to fucking nail that song.
For those of you haven't watched this, I'm sure if you can pull me into correct, but this is the video which has you all kind of guesting as women on the video, which also features the rapper Poss. For those of you who haven't checked it out, check out p.o.s. Really, really good. Like new age conscious rapper, really rate him. So check out his stuff.
Sayers and fucking Minneapolis.
But anyway, you're on this video. Can you want to tell us a little bit more about the concept, about how that came about? You're all portraying women in the video, and
Pip came up with the idea. He's got a lot of novel video ideas when he commits himself to making a video for a song. I had no part in it at all. He just put it all together himself. Since he couldn't get me or POS in the video, he decided he'd get women to play all of us, and then fucking they kind of like paint the town red in the video, you know. So you can see it, you can watch it on YouTube, but it's really fun. It's a good. I think everyone. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, because my girl didn't memorize my parts as well as the other two. But no, I mean, if she listens to this podcast, I don't want her to think I'm upset. But I just was like, man, you better nail my verse better than me now.
Is this not like part of the problem when you kind of make like projects with people in like different countries and kind of like, you know, because you won't have like an executive decision over like the kind of final product is.
Yeah, well, it's Pip's thing. It's just something I contributed to, so that was all all executive decisions were his to make, and considering his track record, I think it's more than fair to like trust that he knows what he's doing, because he just kills it every time.
So hip-hop, the genre of music, which is obviously a very, very, very broad range. I've heard some of this stuff, but people are saying, like, what do you feel of the state of it? Like, some people say hip-hop is dead. I'm sure it's kind of questions you get asked all the time, but what do you feel about that, like, sort of thing? Is there such a thing as, like, kind of brand new, kind of, like, defying hip-hop at this moment in time? Is there any kind of boundaries being broken as far as you consider?
Yeah, I think there are. I don't think they're all great boundaries being broken. I'm not particularly inspired by most of the new stuff that I hear. That's a typical story. You know, like, I don't go searching for too much new stuff. A lot of the things I hear, I'm just like, all right, it's okay. It's not killing me. I need something to really blow me away. The only artist... And admittedly, I have a limited frame because I have not checked out everybody. I just don't have time for that. I'm more concerned with my own crew. I'm more concerned with Strange Famous Records. I'm more concerned with my own music to give a fuck about anybody else. But sometimes someone will slip through the cracks. I'll hear him, like Kendrick Lamar. I think is a really talented, skilled, interesting, smart hip hop artist, and we don't get nearly enough of those. In the past 10 years, I don't think I've had anyone who really made me just stop what I was doing and like shake my head and be like, fuck yeah. Like,
kind of reminds me, like, I kind of listen to Nas for the first time. Kind of reminds me listening to, like,
there's more going on.
The first Mos Def.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. When you hear it, you say, wow, okay, this dude is operating on levels. It's not just, he's not trend hopping. He's not following someone's formula. He's bringing something fresh. And he has the fundamentals down, and that's something I always look for in hip hop artists.
What about some of the kind of other new era sort of artists? Like there's obviously quite a few kind of big uns who, like Danny Brown, Action Bronson, Flatbush Zombies, them kind of things. Are any of those people that you give a fly in about, or is that? Or do you think it's just kind of
not really? I mean, you could name a million new MCs, and I've probably heard one or two songs from each of them, so it's tough for me to make a decision, but. Like I said, the only new hip hop artist that really like made my ears turn up was Kendrick Lamar. Okay.
What about you?
And I didn't even get his album. I mean, that's how little I truly give a shit. I'm seriously only interested in the work that I do. I don't like to be influenced by any new artists. I don't like. I don't know. It's not the kind of stuff I listen to. I'm so consumed by my own work and doing my own business, and that has to be my focus. It has to be my focus. And when it comes time for leisure, for listening to music for leisure, I try not to even listen to hip hop. So like nothing with words. I have enough words in my head.
So there's like the new album. You know, I've had a good chance to listen to it quite a few times now, and I'm going to go on the record and say, I think it's the best thing you've done in like 10 years. I think it's really, really outstanding and stuff like that. But obviously there's the issue about, like the fact you've not been out there for 4 years and spent time away from it. But I kind of hear a lot of like sort of like deep stuff going on. I don't claim to understand all of it. I haven't listened to it enough times, and obviously some of it only you'll understand. But yeah, kind of like, what's it about? For those who haven't maybe listened to it yet, like, what's kind of where we at that point when that kind of album?
Yeah, with Coppergone, I just wanted to punch my way out the gate. I wanted to because the last record was the Life album was my last record with Epitaph, which was a bigger label who had, more people working for them, and it's supposed to like raise my recognition level or get me coverage that I can't get on my own. But honestly, like, that never happened, and I just wasted a lot of fucking money and time trying to make something work with that. The first record I did with them was awesome. Like, everything went well, and by the time Life came around, I feel like they gave up on hip hop because it's a punk rock label. They just weren't working hard for it, and that, I think, is an example of how a lot of things happened in my life around that time. It was like not just me leaving my label, not just me leaving the distribution company, my publicist. It was my girlfriend. It was a lot of parts of life where I was like, I'm gonna step away right now. And I stepped away from touring, from my booking company, everything. I just was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I need my time alone. And then after 3 years, things got pretty dark and depressing, and I knew when I came out with my next project, I had to hit hard. Like, I just really had to bring it back and say, I didn't do a toned down record like Life because I can't do a hard record. It just was the time for me to do that. There's times to branch off into different styles and sounds. And in this part of my life and my career, because a lot of these songs, I started writing them 6, 7, 8 years ago. But the same thing with the Life record. Like, all my albums are like that. I have very old, or I shouldn't say very old, but like things that always go back a few years.
Yeah.
And then I bring them back.
You never quite finish them, and like
that's how songs take a long time to develop and percolate. If you want to like give them that attention and give them that time to kind of prove themselves. Because if it was dope 5 years ago and it's not dope right now, it's not dope enough.
Well, I think the thing is with that album is that there's plenty of dope tunes on Life, my personal opinion is that the good songs on it are outstanding, but there's just some songs which are like okay, whereas I think this is the first time that I've heard since your most famous album, and it's just like it's just a polished piece of work. It's like a rounded piece of work,
Yeah.
So you're particularly like the Let 'Em Purr track. There's a lot of people talking about that. You're talking about a guy who's hasn't gone out. He's looking after his cat. It's kind of his only sight and sort of songs. Can you a little kind of elaborate on how that kind of came about? That song, is that you talking about yourself, or is that about people that you know, or a person that you know?
The song it was literally my life. I just wrote it and recorded it in a day. It was a last minute song that we did for the album. The beat was like supposed to be for Thank You, and it was too sad. Buck65 sent me the beat, and the beat was really sad. I was like, this is too sad for Thank You. I was like, I have to write something new to this. And then I just went in. I just was like, well, here's everything I haven't said yet on the record. And I think it gave everything else on the record perspective. It's like, okay, well, he's been going through this shit. This is how he's dealt with it. It's been a very, kind of a fucked up period in a person's life where you don't want any personal interactions. Your cat becomes your fucking only friend, and how the hell did this happen, and why is it like this? And I don't know. I don't have the answer. That's in the song. I have no idea. I just know that's how it all turned out, and that's why I decided I have to get out. I have to do more shows. I have to record again and do this record. And it was like, that's why it gives a record perspective, because it was like, damn, I kind of really hit a certain bottom here, right? Time to like push out. Time to like really fucking fight, get this shit going again, live a healthier life, and hopefully find happiness along the way.
Well, you seem to. You've got a girlfriend now, and you're touring around. And
well, I've been working with her for 10 years, and she was really important in helping me with the record as far as the cover art and everything. She does our graphic design, and she was also going through her own shit. So obviously, like, we connect on that level, and while we work together, we also shared all our personal turmoil and built a bond that way. But yeah, it was, and now we tour together. We're touring the whole world, so it's
a beautiful thing, man.
It's a big test.
Yeah,
it's actually a big test, because I'm not comfortable being around anyone for extended periods of time. So to be like on the side of somebody for 3 months straight is like, it comes with its highs and lows.
Okay. Of course.
Like, I freak out. Like, I love having somebody, but at the same time, I also love having nobody. It's like I need to find the right part of myself to cater and nurture, so that I don't push away the good things.
Totally. It's a very difficult balance, and I've been in that place before, being in a long-term relationship myself, and now no longer being in it. It's kind of the balance between the loveliness of kind of sharing something with it, and then at the same time kind of the hassle and the things where you just kind of need your own space. And it's and traveling is a great test of that.
But I'm truly lucky to have someone like her who's willing to like put up with my shit and help me out. And I know I'm not easy to deal with. So, but speaking of, I actually have to get ready.
I've got a grandmother like that.
So you don't have to get just spending all your neurosis on the microphone. You can now actually have somebody else to share it with it as well.
Yeah. We'll see how that works.
Quickly, just finish on a few sort of lighter notes. But you've got obviously beards become very fashionable in recent times. So obviously note that your record label has a number of people on the label that have had beards.
Yeah.
Do have beards or whatever and stuff like that. Where kind of Edward Scissortongue had been tonight, it would have been like a kind of 4 bill beard actually, because Fred's here as well. So what's the crap? What do you think of like sort of the general sort of fashionability of beards now, and something that you've obviously long had, and it's just part of who you are?
Yeah. I've seen people hate on the trend of big beards, like the hipster aspect of it, but I'll never be mad at beards. Like, for a person to have a beard for any reason, that's good for me. Like, I like beards. I've had one as long as I could grow one, So yeah, before most people, I don't know why, I just grew a fucking massive beard. I'm like, I like this beard, I'm keeping it. And then now, 13 years later, where it's very common, and it looks like I'm just kind of part of the pack, I'm all right with that. I don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't affect
Simply,
me.
you know that you're a trendsetter.
Well, I'm like, I got gray in my
You're very
beard.
modest about it.
The difference is I have gray in my beard. It's a silverback beard, and other beards have to pay it respect, no matter how big it is. You know? But I have to get ready. I gotta
No
put
worries,
on my
man.
dress, and I have to stretch it out.
We'll look forward to listening to you and enjoy the set.
Thank
Okay,
you,
man.
brother. Yeah.
Thanks for your time,
Hell
mate.
yeah.
Cheers.
That was Sage Francis taking an interview from last week's performance in Newcastle in Think Tank just before he went on show. So, lads, what do you think of the interview?
I think Sage really encapsulated how I feel about beards. And also you said dope at some point. In the
is a white Englishman allowed to say the word dope?
Absolutely
I'm not
unselfconsciously,
sure.
you were
I
in the
mean-
presence of a silverback, man.
I've been scratching through the internet to find out if it is okay, and I'm not sure.
I think now, I've touched Don's hand and touched Sage's hand. I think it's okay.
I just really like the bit which obviously I mentioned in the interview where you know, it's like people occasionally get naked, and I don't mean in like the actual physical sense. I mean actually people like suddenly like bear apart and like sort of expose themselves. And I just thought it was really nice that amidst this interview, which was kind of obviously of a musical nature because he's a musical artist, that he talked about, you know, kind of the sort of issue about his girlfriend and going on the road with her and what that meant. Obviously he'd written a song on the album which is very, very kind of about social isolation. He talks about, you know, living off like microwave meals and literally having nothing but a cat as his best friend, to then kind of go out and actually kind of sort of share something where he's going to be on the road. I think he's doing like 40 dates off the back.
He's just added more. South Korea, Busan.
You know, where he's with somebody who he's known for a long time in a platonic way, and now he's his girlfriend. It's a real tester going on travelling. I mean, I know that from travelling myself with a partner as well. And it's just that, you know, I just thought it was really nice how he kind of like talks about how she has to put up with his shit as well. And
Your partner was a parrot, though, wasn't it?
What?
it was.
You know, where you've travelled the world with a parrot.
Less said about that, the better.
Yeah, he had what
But
slightly
yeah.
left of centre
It's
there.
just been a bit crazy.
I mean, I'd just like to come in on that. Like, I mean, I mentioned Mark Bell before from LFO. Like this artists who are soundtracks to your life. And Sage, if you're listening, without being all like, ooh, Sage and that, but like seriously, absolutely, he is one of those people there. I think pretty much everybody in this room can say that. And like, you know, you were talking about the sort of make and purr thing, and it was just again another eerie, because this is the first time I've actually heard this interview. We really wanted to sort of just react to it, like sort of as live on the podcast, rather than sort of be led by our own sort of preconceptions of it. And I mean, for me, the like last year, and I've mentioned this before about this whole social isolation thing and all that, I had an absolute beast of a year. I mean, we've talked about that before. I'm not going into the details of it, but it was absolutely horrendous. And I did sort of retreat inside myself as well. And I sort of, it was just me and me dog. It wasn't the cat. It was me and the dog, you know. It was like me and the dog going around, the dog getting us up in the morning. I was depressed. Like, the dog never let us down. The dog was always there. He was like, come on, let's go out, you know. And he got us up and out we went. And if it wasn't for me dog, then what would have happened? I don't know, you know. And once again, Sage Francis eerily illustrates another segment of your life, just like he did when A Healthy Distrust came out, which was another dodgy period in my life. Like, going back to rehab on that, I've mentioned before on the podcast, reminds us of like a friend we lost and all of that. So Sage, if you do listen to it, maybe you will, maybe you won't, just want to say like, thanks mate, you know, and it was nice to meet you however briefly it was, and just keep doing what you're doing. We're so pleased you're back.
Totally.
Might write more songs for Mike's life.
Just keep writing, and then some occult shit will happen, and then I might grow a beard, and then you'll like illustrate my life.
What's that over there? I can see a shape in the distance. I think it's a triangle.
It's not.
Oh my god. Triangles, chief. Triangles.
Oh, we should have all had triangles, shouldn't we? We should have had, remember the things you had to do?
Triangles.
Can you?
Triangles.
Is anybody out there? Can
Triangles.
Anyone remember the
Hello, everybody.
triangles?
Hello, and welcome to a new feature, but a much vaunted one on the Facebook that we've been threatening to do for a while. Triangles.
Triangles.
And what do triangles mean?
It reminds me of being in the school assembly singing Little Donkey,
Why is that?
because I would always be given the triangle because they have absolutely new musical playing ability. Or possibly
I see. I
or
was like,
possibly
well,
a
so what's your
coconut
connection,
shell.
mate? What are you doing?
Or so two coconuts.
That's what I was trying to say,
Clippity
Steve,
clop,
that's the whole
clippity
thing.
clop.
What?
Why don't we get triangles to play over the theme tune of Triangles?
That's
was
a
listening.
possibility
You start
in the future.
shouting on with your big mouth.
I was just
your
having a
big
bit
voice.
of a fucking carry on with the
I
theme
was
tune.
trying to as
I do- what I would
Without
do-
further ado,
here's a new segment called Triangles, and once again, these fucking arseholes have got involved, and
You.
it's all went to shit. But yes, Triangles, what it essentially is a look into the world of the strange. Triangles, essentially. Can we find triangles?
How weird then?
Can we find them?
Conspiracy.
Conspiracies, UFOs, ghouls, heroes, heroines, villains,
And villainesses. Conspiracy that Timmy Mallet was actually Mike Cowell's love
Timmy Mallet
child.
was in the Illuminati. But just on that theme tune, do you know what it was? Do you know what that theme
I wasn't
tune?
aware of the tune.
The original theme tune. Do you remember Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World? It's the intro from Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, and it ties in lovely with Savile's Corner later. Why is that, gentlemen? Do you know?
Is he a nonce?
Well, he lived in Sri Lanka, and there was a little bit of a cloud over him about young boys.
I've heard of that.
Allegedly. He did get off with it, but it might have been something to do with the justice system there. I don't know. Far be it from me to speculate. Moving back into the world of Bigfoot, UFOs, and conspiracies, and ghouls, heroes, heroines, and villainesses.
What you got then?
What we got this week? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to thank Nafisa Hussain, who is one of the regular contributors to the online.
She certainly is.
She is indeed. Almost pathologically on there every day. Hi, Naf. Hi.
Hello.
She put forward, obviously, as you know, I ask for sort of things people want, and this was the one that sort of most captured my imagination. Something I had heard of before, but something I'd like to introduce to you on the first edition of Triangles, which is there was it's around sort of the CIA and their activities back in the day around. Sort of using drugs. I mean, we've all heard of the army LSD experiments. This one was a little bit more nefarious. It was a place in France. And have you heard of this, by the way, gentlemen?
Keep talking.
You're looking a bit blank.
I'm waiting for the punch.
Essentially, there was quite recently, and I do have a clip from a US writer who has uncovered evidence suggesting that the CIA spiked a French village's food with the hallucinogenic drug LSD.
I think I have heard that, yeah.
Yes. We're going to hear from the journalist H.P. Albarelli Jr.
I didn't know it was the CIA, though. I heard that had happened.
Well, this is the thing. It's relatively recent, last couple of years style. We're going to, as I keep saying, play in a clip in a minute, but if you stopped interrupting, I'd just set the scene.
Just a fucking question.
Well, he anyways came up. Oh, just ask you a question. I'll tell you when you can come in. All right. This is my triangles.
What a cock.
What a cock. So anyways, come across some CIA documents while investigating the suspicious suicide of a biochemist who fell from a 13th floor window 2 years.
They didn't have much luck then, biochemists.
Well, what was them other ones? There was that sort of one of them info things where it was 50 biochemists who've died in the last week or
in
something
mysterious circumstances.
One
was
of
at the time of the Iraq War.
Was that on BuzzFeed? You won't believe the amount of biochemists that
Seriously, the biochemists,
Pianos
it's just
falling
an
on their
epidemic
heads
of
and all
death.
sorts.
But so he fell out of a 13th floor window mysteriously 2 years
Onto a
after a mystery
spike.
illness that caused an entire French village to go temporarily mad 50 years ago. Hundreds of residents in the picturesque Pont Saint-Esprit were suddenly struck, it's near Marseille in the south of France, were suddenly struck down with mass insanity and hallucinations on August the 16th, 1951. At least 5 people in
Before
the
Chris Waddle's time, then.
Oh, well, I didn't I? Probably, I reckon. Considering he wasn't fucking even working in the sausage factory there, you dick. So at least 5 people in the southern French village died. Dozens were locked up in asylums after witnessing terrifying hallucinations of dragons and fire, which was nice. In the horror scenes, an 11-year-old tried to strangle his grandmother. Freudian. Another man shouted, "I'm a plane!" before jumping out of a second-floor window, breaking his legs. For decades, the bizarre cursed bread incident was blamed on a local baker whose baguettes had been poisoned with either a psychedelic mould or mercury. However, and this is why we're doing it, new evidence points the finger at the CIA, who are accused of spiking bread with LSD in a mind control experiment.
Je suis le plane.
Je suis bonjour la classe. Dan, have you got that queued up? I think we'll go straight into Mr. Albarelli's clip and then we'll have a little discussion afterwards, gentlemen.
Fonzie
You're
Albarelli.
saying that the CIA tested out drugs on foreigners. How were they able to successfully do that?
Well, the test that got Olson in trouble and eventually got him murdered, that he spoke out of school about, was a test that took place in August 1951 in a small French village called Pont Saint-Esprit. That's in southern France, not far from Marseille. And the CIA funded Fort Detrick to do an experiment there involving aerosol LSD sprayed in the small village. That affected 500 people in that village. There were 3 suicides, and about 40 people were carted off to a nearby insane asylum as a result of that experiment.
Why don't we just explain why it was that you believe the military was trying to produce LSD? How did they want to use it?
Initially, there was a lot of excitement about LSD. The initial excitement was the possibility of using LSD as a weapon in the field that would eliminate the violence that occurred mostly in wartime. In other words, people wouldn't be killed and property wouldn't be destroyed. So you could launch a massive aerosol LSD attack on enemy troops. They'd go crazy for a few hours. People could sweep in, capture them, whatever. It sounds very naive in retrospect, but there were several papers written by the Army in 1949 and in 1950 to that effect. And it was at that point that the Army decided to go forward and experiment with the drug. But the interest rapidly transformed into an interest in terms of using LSD for interrogation purposes, thinking that it would put somebody either at ease or in a state where they'd tell the truth. They almost thought that perhaps it could be used as a truth drug. That didn't pan out at all.
I was very surprised to read 2 very familiar names in your book, and that being Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney. Tell me how they were involved in all of this.
Olson was murdered in '53, and his murder was covered up from 1953 successfully until 1975. Only his family had suspicions about his death. No one else had any suspicions. In 1975, the Rockefeller Commission inadvertently printed in a report to the president that a civilian employee for the U.S. Army had been dosed with LSD in 1953 and subsequently committed suicide 9 days later in New York City. Well, that provoked everybody's attention because the report didn't name who that civilian employee was. That part of the story had been covered up, very successfully covered up, from 1953 until 1975. Rumsfeld and Cheney, to put it bluntly, were part of that cover-up.
Back we come. So there's those names again. Isn't it strange how certain names continue to crop up over
Fingers
history?
in pies.
Pies and fingers.
Yeah, the 2 guys behind the fucking evil scheming fucking project for the New American Century, a body which involved also other people like Dan Quayle, and
William Crystal.
Yeah. Basically kind of
Richard Pearl.
the theoretician body behind kind of the neocon agenda, without sounding like Alec Jones. I really did when I said the neocon agenda. The neocon agenda.
Neocon agenda.
But like,
who can't handle the truth?
But no, that was Tom Cruise.
I know, I was just saying.
But like, you know, it's basically like, you know, conspiracy site, a real body that does definitely exist, that is like, you know, says that basically in the period that sort of around 9/11 happened, that there was a kind of policy statement which was about the fact that if, in order to control the world, the future of the world all depended about who controls the Middle East. and like kind of the it was a kind of policy document that was drafted at a time of which those particular names that I mentioned were all really, really behind it, and they were just basically about people kind of land grabbing and resource grabbing from the Middle East, and it's like no connection, no surprise that people like Cheney or whatever, fucking Rumsfeld, or all these kind of people involved in the Xenon and fucking fallout of fucking oil companies, fucking people who just basically do inside trading. They're fucking politicians.
There.
Politicians 1 second, then the businessmen, then the politicians, then the businessmen, and they kind of relax the policies around themselves in order to kind of make
just a little bit more set the scene
through.
about those people. The board of Halliburton, who won no bid contract to rebuild Iraq. I mean, you can go in more depth with that kind of stuff in terms of like a lot of the stuff wasn't even delivered. It was like sort of anything other than arms for the troops, so like food and kit and bulletproof vests that were defective and all of that. They made fortunes out of it. Absolutely under the counter stuff. That's what you're dealing with, and what you tend to find when you're searching for triangles is you can follow the money.
They don't seem to have ever been involved in anything good. I feel like actually look through the history is always like everything they've ever been involved in is just a piece of shit.
They didn't sponsor like their grandkids softball league. They didn't think to do it,
This is quite a big bold claim, though. This is about something where basically they were talking about somebody who's actually committed suicide or has been allegedly kind of involved in suicide and has been, spiked or been manipulated using LSD. It's quite a different sort of connection in the fact that they are involved in this cover-up, and unfortunately the piece doesn't kind of elaborate a little bit more on
well, I mean, I can give you a little bit more
was.
on it. I mean, where this came from was, and it's like sort of, relatively recently, is, this guy, the journalist that was on the clip, Albarelli, he came across these CIA documents which apparently were put out in error, which actually does name these two individuals in question, and it was because of the whole furore of it. The upshot of like sort of what happened, I'd heard of this thing before, and they were talking about it being like mouldy bread, or a form of mould which has sent everybody mad. There's still a slight amount of conjecture. I believe the French intelligence agency are asking for answers from the CIA as to whether they actually did do this, because obviously it's like on foreign soil.
But surely they would have had knowledge or something.
Well, this is the sort of like the interplay that goes on, isn't there? Maybe they did.
In the intelligence community.
What we do know for certain, there was like multiple people went to the asylum, local asylum. I believe about 40 odd people. As I mentioned before, people committed suicide. Like somebody strangled his grandmother. What they're saying is that it was like an aerosol test to try out sort of weapons that they could sort of decimate a population without actually smashing down the buildings and sort of using bombs. So they're like, they were trying this out to see what would happen. Mm-hmm. And again, it's something I'd heard of, and they were like, it was put out about like sort of, mouldy bread. But this is new information, so thanks Naf for putting that out there for us. Really would like to hear more from the people out there. Is it something that you've heard of before? Is it something that you can actually add to in a future episode of Triangles as we return next week? I can give a bit more information on. Is it something that, have you heard of other incidents where, chemical, like sort of hallucinogenic, they've tried to like weaponize hallucinogens, really, want to hear more from yous out there.
That whole idea of like people taking LSD in like kind of a war-like situation in order to make them, kind of more ready for war. Literally, like if I was in that situation, I don't know if has anybody ever been in a conflict situation whilst potentially being under the influence of said particular substance that we have just been
talking about? ISIS gun. You seen the trailers on that, mate? You seen the fucking trailers on that? Love you, mate. I love you.
But I literally run a mile. I mean, I have been punched in the face once whilst in that particular frame of mind, and I remember it being like literally like it's just like suddenly like your whole world closes in on you. It's like fuck. When you're like like paranoia like sort of kicks in fucking like a fucking motherfucker. And you're like I would literally be like rather than running into fucking no man's land, I'll be running as far as away as I possibly be running into Cambodia and going please give me fucking self.
There's different versions of it though, isn't it? Because like some of it can make you violent. Apparently I'm sure I've heard that like the Vikings used to
violent LSD.
do you know do you know like berserker mode?
Aye.
Like what the Vikings
You
and that used
want
to
to
go
like
into.
me, sucky, fucky, berserker? Do you want to make some fuck berserker?
Would you like to suck my cock, berserker? I had to qualify that he started it, you know what I mean?
Happen,
Fuck
isn't
you.
Sorry,
Sorry,
but
mate,
clerk's moment.
continue.
But they used to take flyer garrix apparently before they went into berserker mode.
I've heard that, aye.
So that
but the
before
thing
they
is
went into battle, you know, that
Like,
sent them into berserker
The
mode.
thing is, there was flyer garrix in the most diplomatic way are a very different kettle of
I
fish.
wouldn't know.
Neither would I.
Apparently, if you drink reindeer piss, that they're a lot more potent, and that's what in Siberia, the the indigenous people in Siberia.
Shaman's piss.
Well,
They do that. They can do that too. The shaman consumes it, and then they'll drink shaman's piss. I don't know if it's direct from the main vein or not, but like that's what a lot of them would do. They would distill the flyer garrick broth, we'll call it, like, and drink reindeer piss.
Well,
Shaman's piss. It's fucking Shaman's piss.
Imagine that if you were taking cowies and you had to put it through a fucking dog or something. Then you had to drink dog piss to get right on.
I remember the day when I've got enough money to buy myself that golden ticket on the Siberian Express that I'll definitely stop off and have some reindeer piss along with my shaman friend and have a lot of flyer garricks. That'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be a lot of fun, Tom, wouldn't it?
It would.
So yes, that's the
I think
first.
you had one other little triangle sort of
Well,
moment.
there was a couple of little things to mention. I mean, this week, let's not forget. Well, let's actually remember. It's the 47th anniversary of the Patterson-Gimlin film. Do you know what that is, gentlemen?
I haven't got a foggiest.
Bigfoot.
That's that Bigfoot.
47 is not really an anniversary, like.
I believe it's
But,
also.
hopefully the podcast will continue.
I also believe it's 50.
Special.
I believe it's a 25-year anniversary of Bigfoot and the Hendersons.
It's the
classic
26
80s film.
and 3/4
Harry?
anniversary of the Bigfoot. But basically the Patterson-Gimlin film was filmed in Bluff Creek in California, and it's the famous one where there's the undulating breasts of the female Bigfoot, and it was the one that like really sort of kicked the Bigfoot like sort of mythos into hyperdrive. And there's still like conjecture: is it real? Is it not? All of that.
think it's real.
That's what Triangles is all about. Is
Why
it
would you
real?
put
Is it
tits
not?
on
Is
your
it real?
Bigfoot suit? It's the ultimate question.
And how did you make those tits undulate in that way?
Maybe they got the rubber rendezvous club. To
Do you think if they did fake it, that like they got a soapy tit wank in Bluff Creek with the fucking undulating Bigfoot tits?
That's probably where the living doll thing comes from.
We've come full circle once again. That's maybe what it is. It's the branch.
That's where it started.
It's the genesis of
Sasquatch fuck.
Would you like to make some fuck berserker?
Well, actually, I've read a story about in Russia where they used to fuck the Bigfoots. Like,
No, well, I watched this thing.
fuck the Bigfoot.
I watched this thing last night. It was proven, like genetics. It was Yana. It was called Yana. Ooh.
She was a beauty.
She was a beauty, Yana. Ooh. That's what Bomber likes.
No, but what they used to do apparently is like they'd break the Bigfoot, you'd capture them in the ancient and like Siberian villages. They'd capture a Bigfoot and they'd put it in a pit for a while to break its spirit, so it would become all docile and that. And then like they would get it to do things around the village because obviously they're fucking strong, you know. But also the men would fuck the Bigfoots on the sly. And but apparently there's like, but what the Bigfoot would do. Take the newborn Bigfoot stroke human Ben down to the fucking river and hide them in the river because that's what they do with the Bigfoots for some reason, but it would obviously kill them because there would be too much human in them. So they used to have to take the fucking kids off the Bigfoot as soon as it had the Ben. But apparently, like, this was people like who are still alive who have known of this.
Honestly, I watched this very documentary last night, and can I bring science and rationality into
Please
the mix?
do.
Into the mix. Don't shoot me down for bringing actual facts into it.
No.
Here comes the party pooper.
Here he comes. Science isn't party pooping. Science is just about sort of dealing with like sort of facts.
I was taking a piss. I love you for your science.
I just want to bring
Sexy
I just want
science.
to bring the sexy science in, you know. It's
Go on.
the Sexy Science podcast.
Brian Cox.
Have I sexed it up enough?
Just crack
anyway,
on.
so anyway, like what this Yana thing and the thing that you mentioned, all of that's like sort
I
of.
don't know if that's Yana who I'm on.
No, she was called Yana. I watched it last night.
Right, go on.
Right,
Just
so anyway,
do
it was
first,
in like a sort of a place which is sort of like now is like northern Georgia. It's all like obviously the former USSR split. What they actually found, there was a professor from Oxford University, and it was a thing with Lausanne Museum in Switzerland. It was a joint sort of thing, and Channel 4 funded it. And you can find it on 4OD. It's called the Bigfoot Files, and it's on episode 3. And what they do is they test the genetics of like the people that you mentioned, the sort of descendants of this particular Bigfoot that you speak of.
I don't know if I'm speaking of the same Bigfoot.
Well, it may have been other sort of mythoses, but this is like obviously eerily something I did watch last night.
Right, okay.
So what they actually found was, they were saying, like, trying to say I was like sort of like a Neanderthal, and that boxer. Remember the sort of Russian
That's
boxer?
That's who I was going to say. The massive one who, what's his
Well, he was on the programme.
He's a fucking Bigfoot, him, like.
Well, what they did was, like, they're saying he was like, they're trying to say like him, and all of these are like derived more, they've got more Neanderthal in them. And like, we've all got like Neanderthal in us, like through interbreeding, sort of, it's roughly about 2.8% in our genetics. Everybody's got it. Like, lesser or greater degree, some people have got more. I'm looking at you. But what they actually did was, what they found, that it wasn't actually Neanderthal genetics. They found that this sort of person that they did sort of put in the pit, and they were saying like, it's rape, really, isn't it? Like that, like it's a lot sort of dark, and what they're saying is they maybe weaved a sort of Bigfoot sort of mythos around it. The genetics are really strong from sub-Saharan Africa, and it was like sort of what the theory that they put forward was that there was a slavery, really. It was an offshoot of like a long forgotten slave trade. And when you look at like sort of the way they would sort of come from sub-Saharan Africa up around through Egypt, it's not that much like further up towards Georgia and up towards the sort of USSR, and it's very rural there. And that's what they found within the sort of genetic, and it was really thorough what they did. The science was really solid.
Is this not what you would expect from a terrestrial television program to dispute any?
Well,
sort of...
how can you?
I mean, I don't know, because I haven't seen it.
How can you sort of like? I mean, they did the science, Michael. The science was done.
I know, but
I mean, this guy watch it yourself, make your own mind up.
Yeah, I would.
That's all I'm going to say.
Myself,
like,
yeah.
I didn't think he was a blagger. I didn't think he was like some kind of like controlled opposition patsy or anything. I think he was just a scientist who was genuinely like sort of interested in like trying to crack the sort of whole Bigfoot thing. And I do actually believe that these results were.
So there was no Bigfoot, is that what he said?
Well, it was more of a kind of like dark sort of like rape slave type thing, where the locals kind of were like, oh, it's a Bigfoot, but it wasn't actually. It was like they basically kept a sex slave where there was some children off the back of it, and they did interview some of the descendants of this actual supposed Bigfoot.
The one that I've heard about, there was no living descendants. I don't think it was like.
Right, but this may be a different thing.
They knew where they knew the descendants had been buried in this graveyard, but they didn't quite know where. That was the story that.
Well, this may have just been a more recent program. I don't know if it's the same thing, but check it out if you want to like judge for yourselves. I mean, triangles isn't about us telling you what to think. It's about inviting you to think. Welcome to Triangles.
Bigfoot sex.
So very quickly, Mickey, say if people want to find out a bit more about the kind of program that you're talking about, where would they find out about it?
It wasn't a program. Going off Lloyd Pye's research.
Lloyd Pye's research into Bigfoot, yeah, and.
Yeah, go on
Mr.
4OD, the Bigfoot Files. There's a 3-part series. I just like the fact that they bring like some reasonable science into the whole mix as well. Although I do like other Bigfoot mental programs as well. Just enjoy everything, you know what I mean? Like, just enjoy your life.
Mickey C, I believe it's time for your tune selection. What have you got on offer for us this week?
It's this week, Smashing Pumpkins, and it's Doomsday Clock.
Ooh.
Rocket.
Hello, welcome back to the Milk Cow podcast. We've got a very special guest for you tonight. It's John Barker. John is a very interesting man, and somebody who I'm really pleased that personally that we've got on the podcast, and somebody I've been aware of for a little bit of time myself. John is going to be with us in Newcastle this Sunday, 26th of October at the Star and Shadow. It's opposite the Tanners, a pub that everybody knows. So just a little bit about John. 1972, John Barker was one of the 4 Angry Brigade members. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for a series of bombings. And at the time, the trial was Britain's longest ever. John is now an author. He's written a book called Bend the Bars, Prison Stories of an Angry Brigade Member. And at the event, he'll be reading from his recently published novel, Futures. So, John, I've got a question for you from a guy called Jamie Stott. What was the atmosphere of the time like, sort of back during the Angry Brigade period?
The atmosphere, well, as you know, when you look back from how things are now, where the attack, the ruling class attack, particularly on the poor, is more ferocious than we can have ever imagined back in 1970, 71. So it seems, it does make you think, we just got things wrong. But I would say in our defence that in this period, 1970, 71, there was still this great working class confidence culturally and politically, but you could sense that there were things that the kind of this is before Mrs. Thatcher, the little building blocks were starting to undermine that self-confidence were apparent, were becoming apparent, though it was still, relative to now. It was a great time. You could, as various people have said, you could survive without being totally squeezed and squashed on the dole, for example.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I've got a question for you here from a lady called Rhiannon Curtis. If you could go back in time, would you do it all again?
This is a very, this is a very, very difficult question.
Yeah,
the only time I ever got asked, "Do you regret it?" was actually by a screw in Wormwood Scrubs, and obviously you say no. You're going to say to the screw, "No, of course I don't regret it." And regrets, I mean, I don't. It's no, I don't regret nothing. It's a cliche, but it's true because it's pointless. But I kind of wish I had been around and active in the 1970s because a lot of very brave and adventurous politics was going on through the 70s. People were experimenting in all kinds of communal living and new kinds of politics. So I regret not being there, but no, of course I don't regret. No, I don't regret.
Good man.
Okay, like a lot of what I understand from what I've read about yourself is that you kind of like the Angry Brigade focused on like kind of targeting buildings rather than like individuals. Can you tell us a little bit about like sort of what were the intentions? Why did you target the things that you did? Give us a bit of background to maybe the listeners who aren't aware of yourself, and what were the intentions of kind of the group and why they targeted the particular targets that they did.
The targets were various, and the first ones were to do actually with solidarity with comrades in Spain who were actually being executed in the Franco period. I mean, this sounds shocking, doesn't it, now? But actually, in the late 1960s into the early 70s, comrades were actually being executed in Spain by Franco, and comrades in Italy were being killed in police stations. So it began as a lot of solidarity actions. And the targets then were very much to do with what I just described. The little building blocks of the ruling class deciding they'd had enough. They'd had enough of this self-confidence. So it was a time when government ministers were making decisions that were having a huge impact on people's lives with no consequences for themselves, and people I knew thought, well, this is, there should be some, if people make decisions that affect masses of other people's lives detrimentally, then there should be some consequences back.
So Jack Davison, one of our people that interacts with us on Facebook, says, do you feel that insurrectionist acts like that of the Angry Brigade are worth it?
It depends on the in the context. Now, if somebody came to me now and said, then I'd think they were an agent provocateur. If somebody said, "Oh, let's go and bomb something," I'd say, I'd be pretty sure in my mind they were an agent provocateur. I mean, it depends on the situation and circumstances. I mean, I think in these very grim times, we have to be clever. We have to be more, shrewd in the way we confront these attacks.
So, I've experienced agent provocateurs firsthand myself, in terms of being in sort of Genoa in 2001. When you say these very grim times, are you saying that now, the idea that they're all kind of infiltrators and the only people who would do something like that to incite, a flame, basically, to create a problem and make people then kind of question, the validity of any kind of struggle or political movement, or people who don't have the intentions of humanity in their mind. They just want to kind of saboteur things. Is that what you're saying by saying that?
No, I'm not. No, sorry, I'm not. I should be more careful with what I mean. I would say that, but then we know, for example, very courageous people who have got into, where planes are stationed whose function is to go and bomb other people. People who've had attacks on warplanes in this country and who have always been acquitted by juries, just as I myself benefited massively from having the fact that we have juries. It saved me 5 years in prison. No, I'm not saying. I mean, you can't judge, but it's is it the right? You have to have a sense of what is the right thing to be doing at the time and at the moment. You would hope. We obviously want to do everything possible to create a mass movement against this ruling class attack.
Yeah. There's a bit of a relevant question from a lady called Jessica DM. Will any form of radicalism be possible under the government's proposed new definitions of anti-state terrorists?
Yes, I think so. I'm just saying, I think we have to be shrewd. I think we just have to be shrewd and clever and avoid the things that make it obvious. I mean, those accusations are going to be thrown anyway, and a lot of the times they have to be disregarded. But I think we have to be smart.
Yeah.
And you just think that in a modern new world we have to kind of adapt and think that there's maybe other strategies, other methods of kind of engaging and bringing around a kind of a population at large that wants to bring around social change or bring around revolution.
Yes. I mean, I have no immediate prescriptions of how that's happening, but I see, for example, I know examples in London where people you'd expect to be in a relatively weak position industrially have actually won victories against employers by by looking at where they might win a small victory. And I do believe that at the present time the most important thing is to go into struggles with the intention of winning. Yeah. Not being heroic losers, because it's only that if we start having some victories then produce a momentum, and that's what I mean by being a bit smart.
Yeah, I get that, and I think being a bit smart, it's maybe sort of like marginal gains. A lot of those marginal gains, they can add up to sort of big wins if we just keep putting them together. I think it's for me, I think it's much more compared to sort of back in the day when you were amongst the Angry Brigade and doing what you were doing. There's a lot more surveillance. You've got to be a bit cleverer, and maybe it's just sort of as I say, just work with the people around us and be a bit smarter, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is obviously things are very different. I mean, there are more CCTVs in London than I think almost anywhere. I mean, at that kind of level, we know that there are supposedly now, to the extent we know anything, there are at least 600 undercover cops. And some of this came out in the last 2 years. I mean, I think what was significant is that most of those were actually concerned with what's loosely called the environmental movement. And it would appear that capital sees the ecology as a kind of as its weak point.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at the concentration of police infiltration, it's been in that particular area. So you can't predict, can you? I mean, there are all there's such a variety of struggles. So, for example, you find maybe that the campaigns against fracking, which are often in very conservative areas, are producing quite interesting levels of opposition.
That's a great point.
Got a few daft questions here. You've got to understand that, social media does present itself with some really silly ones. Where did you get your Semtex from?
No comment.
That's a no comment. G.
Is Graham Black asked, is the Angry Brigade the next step up from the Boys Brigade?
No comment.
Okay, sorry. I'll ask you something a bit more serious than that. I don't know, you aware of the band Sonic Youth? Are you
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Sorry, are you aware of the band Sonic Youth?
Still didn't catch it. I can't hear you.
Sorry, are you aware of the band Sonic Youth?
No.
All right. Okay. Sonic Youth, a big band in the 90s. Anyway, that one of the singers from it, Thurston Moore, has recently moved to Stoke Newington and has been dedicating his song "Detonation" to the Angry Brigade at his gigs. Are you aware of this or not? Obviously not, if you've done it.
I mean, the thing is, just before, because actually you're echoing a lot. The thing is really, to tell you the truth, I'm not really all that interested in the past. I'm interested in the present.
Great, man.
All that Angry Brigade stuff. You asked me, regret it, not regret it. I said I'm ambiguous about it, but I'm really not interested in it anymore. I'm interested in the now.
Yeah.
And one of the many things that I'm involved with is in writing fiction. Whether writing fiction is going to change anything, you can't. The idea that that one has to be modest. I mean, I don't think I'm going to change anything by anything I do. But you only change anything in with a lot of other people. But I do think that there is a role for political fiction, and that's what I'm engaged with. And I shall be reading from this novel at the Canny Little Library on Sunday, and I hope that in the course of it, I will convince people that there is a role for political fiction of many varieties, and mine's of a particular variety, and it's a way in which I think that you can. One of the things it can do is to talk capitalism without the flim-flam, really, the naked stuff of how capitalists really think, talk, act without the flim-flam, and I think that's quite important to do.
I agree with you totally, and I think that's one of the loves of dystopian films or dystopian literature, or just culture in general is that people are much more willing to digest something when it's kind of presented to them in a way which is kind of maybe more accessible, but at the same time it can subtly kind of instill kind of knowledge and views and value systems that they didn't even realise that they were kind of taken on board by kind of engaging with things like that. One of the best books I've written over the last I haven't at all read. I've never read a book. One of the best books I've read over the last few years anyway is the whole kind of the trilogy of the girl with the dragon tattoo. I don't know if you've ever read any of those books, but they kind of deal a lot with kind of like left-wing groups and like the kind of a lot of the characters in it, like there's kind of subtleties to their involvement in kind of far left and far right activity. And I find some of the observations and kind of the relevance of about how it kind of affects people's political point of view really, really interesting, and kind of it instills a lot of what I've actually observed myself. And also like big films that are out there, that lots of people get exposed to, do kind of touch on, a lot of the issues that we know about, like class systems and inequalities. There's been a number of kind of big blockbusters over the years. Unfortunately, the irony is that these kind of blockbusters are often run and organised by multinational corporations themselves, which are part and parcel of the problem. But yeah, I think culture has an important part to play in kind of helping people shape and change.
I'm obviously glad you think that, and I'm hoping that on Sunday we'll have a very, as I have had in the last week in other cities, that we'll have we will have a discussion about the different forms and the possibilities of. So for example, I was doing a reading in Leeds, and people were talking about the novelist David Peace.
Oh yeah,
and GB84 and other works of his, which is fictionally dealing with overt political situations. Mine is slightly different. Other people like, I think the greatest writer in the it's in fact Scottish, Jim Kelman, who does it in a different way. But I think there are different varieties, and that's hopefully we'll have a conversation. I mean, apart from me reading from the novel, I hope we'll have some kind of conversation and debates about this on Sunday. That's what I'm hoping for.
What do you think of Jake Arnaud's novel featuring the Angry Big?
I haven't read it.
All right, okay. Nice. And you mentioned as well, like about like you like to be thinking about the here and now rather than the past or whatever. Are there any kind of like political movements or kind of like strategies at the moment which you do find inspiring, or things that you hear about now which kind of like give you hope?
Well, just last week, there's an estate here near in fact where the Olympic Stadium was built, and which is obviously now prime real estate. About 2 years ago, university wanted to take it, because now you realise that universities are business and residences is part of their business. Mm-hmm. And in order to do this, they had a compliant new Labour council in Newham deliberately, can you imagine this, deliberately running down an estate, deliberately trying to make it uninhabitable so it can be moved on. Well, this got resisted, and now they're doing it again. And some single mums who've been pushed into this prison-like hostel occupied several flats on this estate, and they have actually won a victory. Some people are going to be rehoused on this estate. Brilliant. That the council was running down. So that yes, of course, there are lots. That I'm giving you one example. Lots of inspiring things. Yeah.
That's very inspiring, man.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I do think that I don't know if this is wild optimism, but I do think that everybody's saying, well, there's lots of very angry people. Why aren't they doing anything? And so I think people are starting to do things. I think that fatalism is going.
John, I read something interesting the other day, and it was talking about how like a lot of people like sort of feel like they really just can't do anything, like we're so swamped by this machine that's been put over us and this whole austerity narrative, which people who like do look into things know that it's just a lie. How would you advise us as sort of younger people to sort of like change that narrative and sort of involve more people like sort of where we are?
Well, as I said before, it's to look for possibilities of where you might actually win something against that machine. and not worry about too much about whether it's a big victory or a small. It's to look, because there are, you have to look for their vulnerabilities. And or the possibilities to win. That's my only advice. Listen, Don, I've loved this, and thanks very much. And I hope that I will see you on Sunday. I've got to go, man.
No worries. This is John Barker, who is going to be at the Canny Little Library, which is a regular feature, happens every Sunday at the Star and Shadow Cinema, which is on Stepney Bank in Byker, Newcastle upon Tyne. Make sure you get along to see him as he reads from his new book, and you will be on at what time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Get yourself along. Thank you very much for your time, John. Nice to talk to you, mate.
All the best, thanks to you, man. I'll speak to you then.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's a section of the show, Top 5.
Top 5. Top 5.
Shit! Where did that come from?
So this morphed out of the idea of Desert Island Crisps, which became Desert Island Body Parts, and we gave Mike Kelly the opportunity to come up with his own top 5. He came up with top 5 conspiracies, something that I went away and researched myself, and then we decided we're going to pull that part of the show anyway. But I did want to just highlight on that, because we're just doing triangles before. My top 5 of conspiracies, I'm not even going to get my number 1, 2, 3 and 4. I'm just going to say the only one that actually kind of floats my boat. But in terms of top 5 conspiracies, I really like this idea of that Osama bin Laden, sorry, wrong person, Obama, Barack Obama, Barack Obama, that the idea that I don't know if you heard this conspiracy, that he was manufactured in a test tube. Have you not heard that conspiracy? I first came across it on The End of Days, a hip hop tune by Vince Paz. Vinny Paz, sorry, kind of sort of an associated Ill Bill and kind of conspiracy, modern day kind of rap or whatever. And then I kind of looked at it and realised that there are actually a multitude of videos on the idea that there was the CIA actually kind of engineered his birth. But yeah, that would definitely be up there. Is not only have you got a new world order, but you've actually got a president that was actually made in a test tube.
But have you heard the version that is actually the re-embodiment of Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh? Have you seen that one? And he does actually look eerily like him when they put the pictures next together. But I would like to pull you up on the top 5.
I think I came up with another one anyway.
Oh, what was your top?
I personally wanted to play Stratos's Tart's Handbag, which would be a game basically about a Mattel action figure from, apart from those that you don't know, that's He-Man. And he would be given the insight into giving his top 5 views of the best smellies on the market.
It's not from the perspective of He-Man. It's from the perspective of
Stratos, the flying man from He-Man.
The whole idea of the top 5 has been lost in the fact that it was supposed to be your Desert Island top 5.
Oh, Desert Island.
I don't know how.
To be honest, I was so haunted from
conspiracies related to Desert Island. I mean, if you're on a desert island, you don't give a shit about.
Well, we've had other people getting with.
We can make the mise en scene be a desert island if you like, Mike.
Yeah. We've had people coming in with their best. I think Naft came in with their top 5 sandwich fillings.
Right. I would I've got a. Well, my idea of the top 5 would be some nice sort of desert island music to sort of play into it, like that type of thing. And then Desert Island top 5.
Yeah.
So
Desert Island top 5, which is
I had an idea for Desert Island top 5.
Go on.
Top 5 Desert Island aliens. And this is real, imagined, or fictional, and you've got to choose your top 5 buddy aliens who you would like
you're going to spend the rest of your days with. But that also means that you can have the interaction and interplay with those aliens as well. Well, E.T.'s got to be there.
What's E.T. doing for you? What is he doing? What
E.T. is for doing me is reminding me. E.T.'s fingers still smell of Drew Barrymore.
She was a child. I thought we'd got Savills Corner, man. Fucking
Hell's
hell.
Kitchen.
Yeah, me.
I'm talking about-
I'm the one who's being called a misogynist and all of this, which is totally, just for the record, absolute and totally not true. And you're talking about E.T. fingering a child. Let's break it down. Let's name the issue.
I mean,
Donald, the ultimate communist Jenkins, is talking about an alien with a red end on his finger, with a long finger. Fingering a what?
What's it?
I wasn't talking about finger. I was just general
Just a
essence.
child.
Just
in
the general essence
the
of
thing is,
someone who I really liked in a more senior
But what
years.
does he do? E.T. doesn't really. What does he do?
Well,
he's just a
well,
little
fuck it.
wall. he's
Well,
just a little
I
fucking
know what I
Make
do.
BMX's fly.
I know, he made BMX's fly.
on this fucking desert
Oh, well,
island.
yeah, but if he can make a fucking BMX fly, he can make a fucking palm tree fly as well.
And then get off the desert island. He's straight away.
E.T. can't do
Oh,
that.
fuck off
Let
with
me
your
turn
rules.
a palm tree into a helicopter.
You're
Here
on
comes the party pooper with his fucking limit league. Said last time that a foreskin and a fucking cock are two separate
Okay,
things.
he has me
We
desert
should
island
never have
aliens.
given. We should never have given him
I'll
the
have-
top 5 again.
Well, you had it and you lost it.
His top fives are more funny than ours.
Did he not just say?
Okay, you can have E.T.
Okay, right,
He's not
okay.
flying you off on the island though.
Well,
Okay.
how are you gonna stop him? That's part of what he does.
I'll shoot him down.
Are you sitting there like the arbiter,
It's like Hunger Games.
He's got a sniper rifle, or on an
Girl,
oil
come
rig
off.
just offshore.
Do you know what I would have definitely up there would be the omnipresent Chucky. Chucky.
that was,
Chucky? Do you know
when
him
you
as
said
Chucky?
like that? I got a shiver up my spine. Just like when
For
I was
those
a
of you who
child.
don't know who were born later, Chucky was an amazing 1980s kids TV program involving real actors, and it was a pretty dark kind of sort of thing. There was a variety of different series. There was Chucky and there was Chucky's Children, and basically what it was just like an aura that basically became friends with a family on planet Earth, and this aura
This was our childhood.
allowed them to kind of deal with day-to-day life and that. But it was good. I
So
don't
what
really
would
agree with
Chalky
you.
bring to the desert?
Chalky, that's like Jim Davidson's questionable friend. Chalky.
I don't like the blacks, but Chalky, he's all right.
Chalky, bit of an aura about him.
No. And I would also, on that tip as well, I would also go, what would he do? It would just be like an omnipresence. It would just be like, I don't have to look at some ugly bastard of an alien every day. I've just got to have to deal with this kind of aura just floating in the air.
Would he help you in your day-to-day?
It would just allow me on a daily basis to kind of rekindle the nostalgic moments, because every time I spoke to him, I couldn't just call him Chucky. I would have to call him Chucky.
All right, so that's 2.
Chucky.
You got any?
I'm not playing me.
Benji. I would also go for the amazing Australian forgotten about 80s TV series, Benji, Zach and the Alien Prince.
You're just making things up now. Fuck off.
I can't vaguely remember.
Vaguely remember
the name.
Actually, I'm not really...
I like the Zimbabwean mini.
Benji, are you having Benji? Are you?
No, I'm not really. That was
I've got one. Gentle Ben.
He's not a fucking. He's a bear.
He's a bear.
No, he was an alien
He's a
bear.
bear.
He was a fucking bear.
Ben, come back from Uranus, Ben.
Bears are from this planet. They don't count.
No, Gentle Ben was from Uranus.
I would go for that guy. He was in that band. Take that. Oh no, that was Robin Williams. Robin Williams. Mork and Mindy. Yeah, Nanu. Because you get.
I can't remember.
Because you would have a big egg that basically came in, and at the end of it, in a He-Man Orko kind of way, would always have a kind of little tail of enlightenment at the end of it. Yeah, just like you'd remember. Today I remembered that humans don't like isolation and being on their own, except that obviously Robin Williams died in isolation.
I'm just going to stop you there. There was an item that they've cruelly cut from this, which I want to do, called Orko's denouement. And Don's essentially doing it, but he's dumbing it down for the masses. Horrendous.
He's having it on his desert island. Nobody wants on his desert island.
Oh, so there he is, sitting on his fucking... There you are on your oil rig with your sniper rifle.
I would have the alien right off The Last Starfighter, that amazing 80s film where the guy who goes and plays on a village, and he lives at a trailer trash, and he plays on an arcade machine, and then is whisked away by this guy who picks him up, who he looks like a normal human, but he kind of wipes his face with a handkerchief, and he's actually got an alien skin underneath. And finally, it would
I've got one.
Yeah, go on.
Flipper.
Flipper's not a fucking alien either.
And then Jeff Bridges.
No, that's questionable because dolphins are said to be alien.
Are they?
Aye.
But they're not though, are they? Well, we're said to be alien. I mean, as far as
Come on, Flipper, let's go to Pluto.
as far as we know, they're
Do you
not.
not remember that episode?
No.
That's because
Can I give you? I
And
actually give mine.
I want to go over my final alien would basically be the often underrated film Jeff Bridges Starman, basically a guy who's like got like little metal balls that he throws and they kind of give him like wisdom or whatever.
Do you know what I would
just because
have?
Jeff Bridges is fucking cool, you know,
know
like
what
a
I
chance
would
to
have?
hang out with somebody who vaguely looks like Jeff
Is he
Bridges.
the alien? Is he?
Yeah, he is the
Do you
alien.
know what
yeah.
I would have? Do you know that film with Sigourney Weaver in it? See how them guys used to eat on that with them just so you would be killed for this
You're
game.
on the desert island. I'll be laughing at you.
No,
getting
I've sent them to your fucking daft oil ring to just eat your sniper rifle, you cunt. Now get in your box. You had Sigourney Weaver's
Yeah, I would just
fucking
get like
alien
face
attack
hugger
box.
and put it inside a bit of formaldehyde and then stick it on the side of a palm tree and then go, look at that, I've got some H.R. Geiger art. That'll be £25,000. I'll sell it on eBay. Hopefully enough money to get us off the desert island and come back to live in civilization.
I gave some
End of
thought
story.
to my desert island aliens. I would have Predator because he'd be fucking killing shit for us, you know.
Ah, right.
I'd have, you know, because you need to hunt.
Or be one of the dancers at Judgment Day.
Hide and seek would be fucked, but you know, Yoda. Just to
So your
keep-
mother could be happy with them t-shirts and that.
Well, no, Yoda's gonna be a good alien.
He's got the lad off them
Yoda's gonna
t-shirts.
be a good alien to have around. He's just fucking omni good, and he'd keep Predator in line.
Michael, big cock you have.
I'd have
Noodle for
I'd
the
have
breakfast.
that. I'd have Paul. Nah, Paul the alien out
Nah,
of the
they've
film.
never
Paul.
heard of him, mate.
Simon Pegg
They've know
film.
what you're talking about.
Paul.
Can we have like
Quite
Gilbert
funny.
Gilbert
Gilbert
the alien? Gilbert's fridge.
Just to like get you the full ensemble, your pyjama bottoms and your top.
I'd have that blind flute pig out of Star Wars. Now the blind flute pig just to play some tunes.
What from Boss Isley Spaceport?
To play some tunes when the campfire.
I would just have that other alien. So anytime, I would have that alien as a sidekick.
He's a bit of a legend, you can have him.
You'd eat the cunt once.
You need some entertainment on your
once you got
fucking
sick of
dark
that song,
little
wouldn't you?
fucking...
I'd have that other alien off
Oil
there,
rig.
Moss Isley, just in case I encountered you on the island and you were pissing us off. So if I couldn't deal with you, you could just turn around. My friend doesn't like him. I don't either.
I have the I'd just fucking chop his arm off, like in the film. And then I'd have, just for a bit of tickle your fancy, I'd have the green tart out of Guardians of the Galaxy, because she's kind of hot. Like,
Never seen it, mate. Far too new for the likes of me.
it's just kind of hot. And she's just basically a hot chick who's green. So.
Hot chick. Are you from the 1950s or something? Yeah, Daddy-o, we got a hot green chick coming in next time.
So there's my 5.
Top-notch stuff.
Brilliant.
This has been podcast number 6, Milk the Cow. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please engage with Mike Cow
Hello.
on, also known as
Proud Mammy. Also,
On
before
Facebook.
we do go, we do have a number of new ways to contact. At MTC Podcast on Twitter. That's at MTC Podcast. And also Facebook /Milk the Cow Podcast. It's a new page. There'll be a lot of sort of offers for events we're doing, competitions, all of that will be released through there. So please like and share that. Bringing a lot more sound people like yourselves to the table.
And we close with none other than ELP and Killer Mike's new project, part 2 of Run the Jewels, amazing kind of new age gangster style, amazingly produced left field hip hop. And this is the new track off their album, which comes available free to download
Just for
on the
gangsters, though.
27th of this month. So check it out. And the name of the track is Oh My Darling, Don't Cry.